feel like we should start on the defensive end,
Yeah.
right? And you mentioned the clip where he clamps Ron Holland, and I'm going to pull that up right now because that clearly made the rounds, and it was a clip in which he really, he didn't get a counting stat off of it. It was just like Ron Holland can't do anything right now. He is just,
Terrorizing.
he's like you said, he's in jail with him, man. And the fact that, Holland is 6'7", 6'8" in that range, and Sarr is 7'1", and he is sliding stride for stride for stride with him, you can start talking to yourself that this guy's defensive potential and the versatility that he has shown, not only as a rim protector, which we'll show, but just as a switchable guy on a guy who might also be the number one pick and a potential go-to scoring option at some point down the line. The fact that he can clamp those guys up too, I mean, it's an incredibly impressive skill set.
No, I'm with you, man. To be as large, as tall as he is, to be sliding his feet, staying in front of him like that. I also thought it was hilarious that throughout the broadcast, they kept comparing him. They kept comparing Ron Holland to Russell Westbrook, and I was really confused by that comparison, listening to that 12 times throughout the broadcast. But, to watch Sarr slide his feet, stay in front, switching hips, using his length as a threat as well. Like, all of that was so intriguing to watch and really makes you think, like you said, Corey, like the impact that he can bring, both as a rim protector and a guy who can switch out and guard smaller guys. Obviously, I don't think either one of us are saying that he's going to be guarding point guards full time. But if you can do it in a pinch, if you could do it off a switch and cause problems like he did against Ron Holland there, that's the type of stuff that NBA front office guys are going to watch that clip and be like, cool. So we know he can do that. Let's just add on top of that. So ultimately, when you're looking at prospects, and I've been thinking about that a lot during our break, Corey, like thinking about how we view prospects and all that stuff. Like sometimes it's, although we're called no ceilings and we're looking at what these players can become, it is also really important to establish and to have a clear understanding of what their floors look like as well. And I think that clip right there does establish that Sarr has some stuff to him defensively that makes his floor even really interesting.
Yeah. And look, I think the defense was always kind of the safest thing, just because, even in this clip where he's one-on-one with Holland, and this time Holland's going to get the shot off. Even in this clip, like Holland's able to stop on a dime and Sarr is kind of backpedaling, right? But he's still able to recover because of those tools. And when you have those tools, I think, you can get by with coming along a little bit slower. The thing is, it feels like every game he's getting better, and that's the thing that's really, really, really encouraging. I think that you could put him in any kind of scheme and he's going to find a way to contribute, whether it is, forcing guys to move off the ball, whether it's, blocking guys' shots or just being a rim deterrent, whatever the case is, it just feels like, here he comes out of nowhere to get Buzelis at the rim, and then he stuffs him a second time on the cut there. That's just really, really fun stuff. Like, and, we're going to talk about Mattis and some of the issues he has as a rim finisher, but the fact that this guy can just patrol the paint, roam around, he has the wherewithal to see his man, see the ball, and then ultimately come over, see where it's going, quick second jump. It's just really fun.
No, I'm with you, Corey. I think fun is the right word. And I think a lot of scouts and front office execs and coaches that are watching this type of film, I think they'll feel exactly the same. I think they'll be like, holy crap, this kid looks like a lot of fun. You start kind of, you see a player like this with that type of fluidity as an athlete, with those type of instincts and athletic ability as well. You start licking your lips, you start going, damn, like what can we, and of course, like, all coaches believe in their developmental ability, right? You start to wonder, like, okay, what can we do with a kid like this? How much more can he grow? How much more can he blossom into an absolutely terrifying defender? And it's hard not to watch these types of clips and go like, wow, like beyond just the impact, right? Like, once again, like Corey, like you mentioned, it's just fun to think about what he can become. And then we see a clip like this where he's flying out to the 3-point line, just deterring shots. And as we know, and Corey, like you talk about all the time when we're talking about impact on defense, it's not always the counting stats. And even before, when he locked up Ron Holland like that, didn't get any type of stat at all for that. But it's the impact that you make. It's the influence that you have. It's, that second thought that you put into an offensive player because of what you're capable of. And I think that's the type of stuff that really gets you excited about a guy like Alexander Sarr.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't remember a guy that I've done a 180 on any more than Sarr. I remember, a friend of the show, Bryce Simon, who is, new co-host for Sam Vecini in the Game Theory podcast.
Right.
He was texting me about Sarr. He was so excited about him, and just based on what I had seen last year, I was like, yeah, man, like, I don't know. He's not for me. Like, I think he's really far away, and like, I get it. Like, I really do. But the game moved so fast, and it seems like now the game is slowed down for him. Mm. And when you add in the fact that now he's starting to process things on both ends at a much quicker rate, and then you freeze this right here. Okay. And then you add on the tools. When we talk about tools, look at this.
Yeah.
He's at the free throw line. He's at the free throw line with his hand down in this clip, man. And he not only gets a shot contest here on a guy who is mid-shot.
Yeah.
He gets a piece.
Yeah.
It looks, and like, that is crazy, crazy stuff, man. Like, that is a real deal impactful shot contest. And look, it's a 7-point game with 50 seconds left, but like, it's still a game. It's not as if the game is completely over at that point. He is he's got a knack for really altering things. And it's valuable, man. It's really valuable for how the NBA is played at this point.
No, I'm with you, man. I mean, there used to be a time where we were amazed by James White taking off from the free throw line and doing amazing dunks. And now we're getting the opposite, right? We're getting guys flying out from there to block shots or, digging on all kinds of stuff, man, defensively. And I think with Sarr, I'm with you, Corey. We just have to keep nailing home the point that it's a lot of fun. And to think that the season is just starting now and we're already getting these types of flashes and this type of production from him down there in the NBL, and to think about what he's going to look like by the end of the season. And then he'll probably come over for the combine and do all kinds of stuff over there. And I just, and also, he's a French guy. Who knows? He might really impress during those meetings, and people might really fall in love with his character and all that stuff. There's so much to be excited by. And I think, defensively, this, along with the rebounding and the type of impact he can have, just cleaning up the boards and being just intimidating. And like, even going back, Corey, to the clips you posted with him in Holland, just like his presence, like he was like all over him, and just like, it just felt like he was towering over him and almost taunting him with his presence. And I think that's the type of stuff that gets you thinking. Nah, I'm not gonna say it's like a 1-for-1 comparison, but those are the types of moments, and that's the type of attitude that gets you thinking like, oh, could this guy be like a KG type of defender one day? I'm not saying that he will be, but I think the biggest thing that stuck out to me once again is like that ferocity that he played with. And then you obviously go back to everything you've talked about, right, with the ability and the instincts or whatever. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot to get excited by.
Now, like you mentioned KG, and it sounds on the surface like blasphemous. And don't get me wrong, Kevin Garnett putting those kind of expectations on any player is blasphemous to a point. But I mean, this is a kid who's raw, he's skinny, but he has something special about him defensively in following suit with the bigs that we've seen in the last, this will be 4 in a row now with Mobley, Chet, Wembanyama, and now Sarr. Like, I mean, this kind of archetype of player is something that every team is going to covet. And if Sarr keeps having the season he's having, like he is going to end up being picked in the top 3, like based on the most recent history, because he offers things at that position that nobody else does. As a guy who you go, hey, maybe this guy could win a Defensive Player of the Year award, at some point.
No, Corey, I'm with you. And I think I love what Breaking the Game just said in our comment section, right? He said, I think how he moves is so important. He just looks like an NBA big, reminds me of AD just in how he moves, not the handle. And I agree with that. That's something that I wrote in my notes too. I think it's almost jarring to see how fluid he is as an athlete. He genuinely looks really comfortable moving around. And I also felt like just how fluid he moves and how quick he moves for his size and how like functional it all looks. Like I thought that in itself also looked pretty intimidating. Like when we think back to like, as you mentioned, right? Mobley, Chet, Victor, all of them, when you see them moving around the court the way that they do at their size, all that stuff is like really jacked up. It's like you look at these guys and you're just like, how is it possible that you're that big and you move around like this? And I think Sarr kind of has that factor to him as well. I love that point, right? Like I think the fluidity is kind of a part of his game, and I think is really important. I think also, I've always been kind of like a body type guy, and I think he's like really proportionate. Other than like his really long arms, like his body just looks really proportionate as well. He uses it well. It looks really good and fluid. There's a lot to like.
Yeah, 100%. And you talk about like watching somebody like that size move around. And I think one of the things that maybe gave me like kind of, some issues in Sarr the player, and I think it more so reared its head on the offensive end than the defensive end, but like the first time I saw him was on a high school court. And he is so large and so long, and the guys that, were playing in the games are so large and so long that sometimes, maybe the fact that a high school court isn't as large as a normal professional size court that they're playing on, that it maybe kind of hurts them a little bit, because yeah, maybe they can recover at certain spots defensively, but like on the other end, maybe it also like it gets in their way. So I think just thinking that's something that I've tried to keep in mind. But look, he's not perfect either defensively. Like he's still got areas to improve on. I think like here is a good example of, he's not really being physical with Bobby Klintman on the drive here. And basically anytime anyone's been physical with Klintman on a drive, he's coughed the ball up or like lost control of it. So far in the NBL season, like he's not physically strong enough. And this is just two guys who neither one of them have the strength to, or like the wherewithal to like kind of body up here. Like I do think there is almost like a finesse to how Sarr defends. Like he can close space really well and use his length, but he doesn't really body up on the move. And I don't know if that's super important for him, because I think mostly, he'll be playing out in a drop and playing cat and mouse, or maybe he'll be switchable and trying to force guys into outside shots. But, I think it's hard for somebody his size to like, when you see a ball handler who is, 6'9", 6'10", like Klintman, you might need to bump him off his spot a little bit, because that height advantage, that size advantage isn't, the same as it is on a much smaller guy. So that is something that I noticed with him. And I think it manifests sometimes as a rebounder too. I think sometimes when he really wants to go after a rebound, he gets up and he'll rip one down. But a lot of times, just the avoiding kind of, really bodying up and trying to, win like a 50-50 rebound without jumping higher than somebody, I think that manifests there as well.
No, I'm with you, dude. Just watching this clip, it kind of just looks like he's shadowing him, which, it could come from a lot of different things. I don't know. I was even thinking as far as like, does it come from soccer? I don't even know if he played soccer, but like, I know center backs in soccer, they kind of shadow their guy, whatever. But Corey, I'm with you. Like, I think it's, but then also, Corey, like, I also think that's a thing that like coaches will look at and be like, oh, I can fix that. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
I can make him, more physical, whatever. And I think like when I look at his physique and I look at, his body, he is skinny now. I agree with you there. But I also think, Corey, I think I don't think you don't think this, but I think he's going to put on good mass too. Like you look at his shoulders, you look at his overall physique, and it looks like he's going to put on some mass there, and he's going to get a lot stronger. But yeah, the physicality has to come with it. It's going to be interesting to watch.
Yeah, and I've been trying to think like who are kind of like his NBA doppelgangers. You know what I mean? And like when I think of guys his age, and you look at a guy like Joel Embiid or Anthony Davis, like they were way skinnier in their college years too.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had excellent frames. I think their frames were at a better starting point than Sarr. I think their shoulders were a little broader. But like the point I'm trying to make is like he's going to get stronger. Like his body's going to fill out, and just by way of the natural progression of his frame, like he's going to be able to put on the kind of weight that will help him embrace some of that physicality a little bit more.
I think, Corey, a guy whose frame that started off worse than Sarr's probably is Giannis's, right? I think
yeah.
when Giannis first came in. And so, yeah, I'm with you, Corey. Like and also you always talk about the grown man strength stuff. Like that's definitely going to come in as well. And one last thing, like you mentioned the rebounding. I 100% agree. Like he wasn't like Paul Millsap at Louisiana Tech, like just, boxing out everyone and grabbing every single board. He is one of these guys that just like likes to jump really high and try to grab one. But also like that's kind of the lost art, right, in basketball of boxing out. But yeah, like it's I still think he's like pretty good at it, but of course he's not perfect, and it's not like the old school rebounding that maybe we grew up on. But yeah, he's gigantic and he's athletic, so he'll kind of stumble into a few once in a while.
Yeah, 100%. Now I want to pivot to his offense for a little bit, and I want to go through some of the clips that from when I saw him at the Hustle and Heart Classic here in New Jersey. And you see a clip like this, I want to start with the positive stuff. And you see a guy who like just stands out as a natural athlete, right? Like catching the lob, throwing it down, monster dunk, and like that's gonna make the highlight reel. But what scared me about his offense is like outside of the stuff that I saw like in like layup lines, which is the dunk parts were awesome, but the shot was crazy. His shot in game, and it's one game or whatever here, he like wasn't even close on as a shooter. Like you could look at the form and be like, all right, like he looks like he's going to be a good shooter. And then the misses were so bad that I was like, it's possible like he needs glasses or like contacts because woof, like just not even close. And then I saw him at the OT Pro Day again. And he was definitely doing some impressive stuff there again athletically, but like, the shot was much more of a idea than a reality. And again, here, like, he's not even hitting the rim on this attempt. And I was like, all right, like it's cool that he's trying to shoot threes, but like, is it something he's actually going to be able to do in the league? Like, if he's getting thrown off by 5'10" Jahad Pettiford on this contest here in the 2-3, like what's going to happen with real length? So I was a little nervous about the offense, but he's been a pretty good shooter so far.
Corey, I just want to say really quick, I know I'm interrupting you, but I think it's hilarious just because like the Corey that I've known throughout the years is like, I feel like once you're kind of like set on a guy, it's hard to change your mind. Not that you don't change your mind, but I feel like because you really, really take a long time to decide on a guy, and to be on this podcast right now and to hear you changing your tune live as we're recording is pretty hilarious. Oh my goodness.
No, I mean, look, I think the guys clearly put in work.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, he went under the radar in the overtime elite. Everybody was focused on the Thompson twins. And, you know, the one thing that I'll say about the overtime elite program is people can talk about it as, you know, the gameplay being awful. And we sure have.
Yeah.
We are, you know, guilty as charged.
Mhm.
But the actual training that these guys get, and I even think a lot of the coaching and instruction that these guys get
Mm.
is really, really, really high level stuff, you know, and they are playing against other talented guys, you know, so it's not as if they're in some rinky dink league. Like they're working, they're getting better every day, even if the on-court product and the stylistic product there, you know, felt at times like it was more geared for social media clicks than not. Like behind the scenes, these guys had all the resources available to get better. And it's clear that Sarr has, because he's shooting it confidently and he's knocking down shots. So like, look, I don't know if this is going to sustain at a high level where, you know, he's going to all of a sudden be this you know, 38% 3-point shooter or something. Like I doubt that. But he doesn't need to be that. So like as long as he's just knocking down these pick and pop threes when he's in space and they look good, like that's really valuable, because I think that's something that when we look at Evan Mobley, we go back to that. Like, what is the flaw in his game that's preventing him from taking another leap? It's like he has to become a guy who could space the floor a little bit, especially playing with Jared Allen. And so far, he hasn't been able to do that. Even it looks like potentially he could. It seems as if Sarr is showing that like he's willing to make sure that he can do that when he gets to the league.
Corey, I think the most important thing that we need to kind of lock down here, and you mentioned it in passing as well, but whether it's the shots that we're seeing right now here on the screen or the threes that he hit during the G League Ignite exhibitions, the quality of the shot were excellent, and they were all off of, you know, pick and pop action with him being literally wide open, and he's nailing them. Right. And I think that's important. Like, I feel like if he's taking these shots within the flow of the offense, with him being pretty open or wide open, I think these are good shots. And the fact that, as you mentioned, Corey, that he's working on them and that he's, you know, putting in the reps to get to a place where he's an adequate enough shooter to take these shots with the type of confidence that he has, I think that's what's most important. Even in that G League Ignite game, I think it was the second game, he took two in a row and he was calling for the ball, and they're the same thing, just same action right here off the pick and roll, and he was just nailing them two shots in a row. And I think that's the type of stuff where, you know, you start to get excited, right? Like, that's not going to be his bread and butter, right? The bread and butter for him is going to be pick and roll, you know, him diving to the rim and them doing all kinds of fun stuff there. Maybe once in a while, throw him a paint touch, a post up for him to, you know, try to do some stuff, which we'll talk about after this, I'm sure. But then also, if he can throw in, you know, 1, 2, maybe 3 3-pointers like this per game, and he can hit him at a good rate, then we're talking about him being, you know, like, I don't know, 17, 18 point per game scorer, considering all that, you know, combined.
And I agree with everything that you said. And even beyond the pick and pop, I think something that he's shown a little bit, like in flashes where it looks like, oh, this might be something he could take advantage of. And then we talk about his ability to kind of attack the rim with the ball in his hands as well. He like this little fake handoff action. And then if he has space, he's letting it fly. And this seems like it's something that he's worked on. It's something he feels comfortable with. It's something he has the green light to take. It's like, okay, you're not going to get up on me. Like, I'm willing to let it fly, man. And he's shooting with this confidence, in which I think is much different than he shot with last year. Last year, it seemed like he was shooting because he wanted to expand that part of his game. And this year, it seems like he's shooting because he knows that he can make them. And, you know, I think that that's a really, really awesome development for him. Now, I also, I don't want him to get shot happy with the 3-point shot. I do want him to take good ones, you know, like, I don't want him to have to settle for a lot of shots. Like, you know, I mean, it's early in the game, early offense. He's kind of open, but like, you know, I would much rather, and great box out, by the way. Let's go back to that that clip right here. We talk about boxing out. Finds a body,
Look at
goes
that.
after it, doesn't get the board, but his teammate does because of that box out. Great box out. And his teammate's already in the post, so he's trying to space for him. But like, we don't need that shot.
Yeah. My favorite, Corey, like I love, as you mentioned, that box out is great. I also think it's hilarious that the guy that was getting boxed out was just flailing, thinking like he even had a chance to get the ball. Always hilarious stuff. But no, I'm with you, Corey. And I think, like I said before, I think anywhere from 1 to 3 attempts per game, more than enough. More than enough. If he can be 35% on like 2 attempts per game, sign me up. That's incredible. From a 7-1 guy with his athletic ability and what he's going to be asked to do, 80-90% of the time. If you can hit a couple per game, 1 or 2 per game, that's more than enough, man. And that makes him that I mean, straight up, that makes him terrifying, Corey. I really do. Like, if he's going to do that and hit that shot that you're playing right now on the screen consistently, that is a terrifying prospect and a guy that should be, in my opinion, if he continues to do this in the NBL, should be cementing himself in that top 3 conversation, like no question. So I'm with you. I think the volume is important. The quality of the shot is important, and his willingness, right? Like we've seen, as you mentioned, Corey, he's not shy about it. So if he keeps taking him, and then what he can do in the post and what he can do in transition, which was pretty crazy too. That's so much free. It's scary. It's scary stuff.
Yeah. And the other thing with his shot that has made me really buy into the touch, man, these turnaround middies, man. What the hell? Like, this is the stuff that you're like, these are the KG shots.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like in this area where, I got a smaller guy on me. All right, let me just smooth little turnaround. And this is not an aberration for him. This is, again, something that he's shooting with confidence and knocking down at like a good clip. So, I mean, he's playing with this confidence and this freedom. And I think he touched on the fact that he's being featured more now than he was in the OTE, which is interesting because the OTE, is this development league that seems perfect for a guy like him to, experiment like that. But it seems like this is the place that he's had that freedom and he doesn't have to second guess. And he's able to do crazy stuff like these turnaround mid-range shots, which on top of, the 3-point shot, you go, okay, maybe a legit shooter, and the footwork there. And the footwork.
And Corey, can I say, like, because we've watched Victor and Chet and Mobley the last couple of seasons, I almost feel like our eyes are getting used to guys that are that gigantic, that they don't seem that big. But when you see Sarr like in the mid post and he's like reaching out one of his ladder arms, it is pretty amazing, like how gigantic he is. And so just to, piggyback off of what you're saying, Corey, if he can do that, where he's catching in that mid post area, can turn over either shoulder, hit a little mid range fade, that's really tantalizing stuff. So I'm with you. It's crazy to think that he's 7'1". Even as I'm watching this clip right now, he kind of looks 6'9", 6'10" to me, but he is actually very much that gigantic. And look at that move, dude. Spinning over right shoulder. Like, he missed it, but the fact that he has the desire and he has the courage to even try a shot like that, it's like, what are we talking about?
Yeah, like it looks good. Like, he just missed.
Exactly.
It's a tough shot. Like, don't get me wrong. He shouldn't be shooting a ton of those. You know what I mean? And but he's confident, and I think there's no more confident possession for him than this next one that I'm gonna pull it up on the screen. Does a good job, runs to the rim, gets out in transition. Now he's gonna flash, space the floor, attack.
Yep.
A little step back in the mid range off the attack. I mean, he's feeling confident and he's making stuff happen, and I can't hate on it. It's working right now.
I'm just kind of admiring the shot once again. This is insane, dude. And once again, 7-1. Who's gonna block that shot, man? That's a really hard shot to defend at his size and with his mobility. Also, shouts to Perth, man. Those jerseys go crazy, man.
Heat.
don't mind that at all. That's beautiful. Got to get our hands on one of those. But no, I'm with you, Corey. If this continues to happen, right, and we're talking about trajectory, we're talking about development, we're talking about his experience in the NBL. If he continues to work on these types of shots and he keeps taking them and he keeps making them, it's going to be really hard to not have him at number one by the end of all this. So that's kind of where I'm at right now, man.
Man, it's not crazy at all, because we talk about all this crazy stuff that he does, right? But what it's also like he has a baseline floor level of skills that makes him valuable too, where it's like he doesn't have to develop a lot of that stuff because he's going to be able to do the big man stuff too. Like we're watching him do all this perimeter stuff with the shooting, but like he just as well is going to be able to, be in the dunker spot, put a guy on a poster. Shout out to Eric Micah getting in there, Team USA legend, willing to contest that shot, and he does his thing. You know what I mean? Like he has this stuff in his bag where he's going to be able to not only get some of that inefficient stuff up, those shot attempts, those hard shot attempts, but also some of the stuff that is going to allow him to score efficiently too. And he hasn't been the most efficient guy so far this season. You definitely want to see a little bit more of this, where he is running pick and roll. He is diving to the rim, even if he's not throwing down a poster. You know what I mean? He's playing a little bit like a big man here. And I think him mixing up when he's going to be a guy who dives, when he's going to be a guy who is running to the rim and scoring at the rim like a big, like I think that's when he's going to be really effective, when he's using the outside stuff as like a real weapon instead of something he's relying on all the time. Because I think he's shown real nice touch. Like this is the footwork, the touch, the extension. I mean, I want to pause the clip at the top of his extension here, right? Gets real good position, and then
that's crazy.
Look where his hand is. It's just a really hard shot to block because he's up in the air and then he's so long. Like you're not going to get a good contest on that. And the fact that he's able to spin so smoothly, so quickly, on top of how high his release is, like he can get this anytime he wants. So like, I don't want him settling for that outside stuff when he could do a little bit of this too. I just want him mixing it up and having a real variety in how he's scoring.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Corey, I'm with you. And I think that's why, like, it kind of goes back to what we talked about before. Like, even just his floor is so high, right? He can do all the Tyson Chandler stuff, that young Tyson Chandler stuff that you would hope that he can do. He's got great touch. I think that one really stuck out to me watching him. I will say, though, Corey, I'm with you. Like, I also would like to see him take more free throws. Also, he's currently shooting at like 52.4% from the line, which is not great, right? But also, like, I just like to see him get more physical, get down there a little bit more, mix in more of the big man stuff, like you just mentioned, right? Like the shot diet, maybe a little bit less of the outside stuff, but also, like, we get it. And we had when we did LaMelo a couple of years back, like LaMelo did all the nasty, sloppy stuff in the NBL and got out of his system, or not all out of his system, but, he made a lot of mistakes and he did a lot of crazy things. And I think maybe, that could be something that Sarr kind of explores too, right? Where he tries new things and he gets aggressive with things that maybe he won't usually do. But it's a lot to be excited because that floor is so strong with him. He's going to be able to, as you mentioned, do all the big man stuff that you're looking for him to do as, on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and I really hope that he's allowed to attack the offensive glass.
Yeah,
because I think that quick second jump is just really beneficial for somebody like him who can get up off the floor and thrive on like putback slams, like we see there. We're gonna see again in this clip, like the length, him getting up, throwing it down. You see him, he gets amped. Like this is the stuff that I really want to see from him. And you combine it now with the fact that he can get out in transition, and he's creating a little bit of stuff at the rim himself too, and it's like, whew. Now this one got me out of my seat when I saw it. Yeah. It's like semi-transition, but that little pickup right there, he must have been working with the Thompson twins, because he looks like one of the Thompsons in this clip. Like I'm going to pause it right when, let me see if I can get it. right here in between.
That's insane,
Look how
dude.
low he gets with this pickup to
Hmm.
keep and protect the ball. And then smoothly finishes. Like he's able to decelerate there. Special, man.
The first time I saw this clip, I was like, "That what is that? What are we even talking about, man? Like that should not happen. You know, that's not a normal human thing to be that gigantic, moving at that speed, and the little in and out pound dribble gather. Just so that's sick stuff, man.
Dude, like Chet and Mobley weren't doing that stuff.
Exactly. Oh, God.
And look, it's going to be hard for somebody to kind of take the Chet spot in
Hmm.
my heart.
Yeah.
I love Chet. He looked really good in that first preseason game. Um, but he's got some stuff.
We could play this clip just the rest of the pod, and I'd be really happy with it. I mean, I'm with you, Corey. Like, we both love Chet. Chet, a guy I got to see in person. Just insane, and I'm really excited for him in his rookie season. But like this type of stuff, like, look at that, dude. Are you
Yeah,
kidding? Like, what are we talking? 7-1, dude. 7-1, and what you talked about, right? With like the dexterity, the fluidity, the flexibility. It's just like this is crazy stuff, man. This is fantastic. I don't even know.
he's a really really fun prospect, man. And I'm excited to see how the rest of his season goes because he started out hot and he's clearly benefited from the fact that this is the only basketball that we have to watch right now, right? Like, in but it's his play. It's not just because we're starving and fiending for something that we're just like, oh, every single guy in this league is awesome, which we're doing a little bit, but like he's the real deal.
Yeah.
And all of that, this guy's theoretical stuff,
Yeah.
he's put into practice this year early on. So it's really exciting in that regard.